from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Buying and selling of equipment isn't just about used tractors and combines. See some of Machinery Pete's more recent unique finds. Battling back from the storm.
Decades of progress gone in a single instant.
The latest on the boots on the ground, helping farmers and ranchers rebuild from Hurricane Helene. And off the picket lines and back to work.
We see this as very good news.
The latest as dock workers on the East and Gulf Coast return to moving cargo in and out of the U.S. right now on AgDay.
AgDay is brought to you by Pioneer.
Ben's bins, please hold.
Yeah, Ben's has been busy all day.
Seems like no one can keep up with this new Z series. What did you all put in these seeds?
Science.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Happening right now, goods are once again flowing in and out of East and Gulf Coast ports. That's after the International Longshoremen's Association reached a tentative deal with United States Maritime Alliance, ending the 3-day strike. John Lawrence has the latest on the deal.
We're very excited to be back.
It will once again be smooth sailing at the U.S. ports along the East and Gulf coasts.
Dock workers are going back to work.
P.O.P. People over profit.
Less than a week after the walk-off started, the International Longshoremen's Association and the U.S. Maritime Alliance issued a joint statement Thursday saying a tentative deal has been reached. The union agreed to extend its contract with the Maritime Alliance to January 15th after it expired Monday. The agreement includes an annual $4 per hour raise for the 6-year contract.
It means that they can provide, put food on the table, pay their bills. They don't have to worry anymore of possibly losing their cars or their homes or anything like that.
An outstanding issue, according to the statement, is restrictions regarding the use of fully automated equipment in the workplace.
Robots don't pay taxes and they don't put food on your table, so it's very important to protect these jobs.
President Joe Biden released a statement applauding the tentative agreement, saying, quote, "Collective bargaining works, and it is critical to building a stronger economy from the middle out and the bottom up."
Next 90 days, we're going to settle everything.
The tentative deal still needs to be completed and ratified by ILA rank-and-file members before it's set in stone. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
The end of the walkout is welcome news for many agriculture groups. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins me. And Michelle, some ag exports were severely impacted by the strike.
Yeah, that's right, Clinton. Dairy groups, including the National Milk Producers Federation and the U.S. Dairy Export Council, say $1.7 billion in dairy exports flow through the East and Gulf Coast ports each year. So the 3-day work stoppage caused disruptions throughout the export supply chain and resulted in canceled sales. Plus, there was additional time and cost to reroute products. And they weren't alone. The temporary end of the work stoppage that shut down East and Gulf Coast ports is good news for U.S. agriculture. There will continue to be some disruption while the backlog is worked through. It had grown to 59 ships as of Thursday morning, according to data firm Everstream Analytics, and they were carrying hundreds of thousands of containers. Officials with the U.S. Meat Export Federation say the agreement was essential for livestock producers and exporters who ship more than $100 million worth of product through those ports each week.
We see this as very good news. Getting people back to work, starting cargo moving again out of the Gulf and East Coast is essential to our business. So from that standpoint, we're very excited about these developments.
The strike was already causing some export sales to be canceled, but it also hurts vital export relationships.
I think the importance of this is that we have a reputation globally as being a very reliable supplier to our customers all over the world. So in that regard, getting people back to work at these ports and getting cargo moving again is essential. And so in that regard, it's very good news in being able to continue to supply our customers.
Soy Transportation Coalition officials also welcomed the news, saying it's never a good time to have a port strike, but it was even more unfortunate given the nation's current economic challenges and the devastation of Hurricane Helene. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Hurricane Helene is now the deadliest storm to hit the U.S. mainland since Hurricane Katrina. Over the weekend, rescue crews and volunteers continued to get to the hardest to reach places, in many cases finding mudslides, downed trees, and washed out roads. It has been more than a week since the storm came ashore on Florida's Gulf Coast, but phone service and electricity outages continue to hinder efforts to contact the missing. President Biden touring storm damage in Raleigh, North Carolina, as well as visiting farms and forest areas in Florida and Georgia with Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack, including a pecan farm in Ray City, which suffered heavy damage.
I'm standing here beside Buck, the owner of this pecan farm. This afternoon, we got a chance to talk a little bit, and he showed me what he lost, talked about what he lost, and his dad. Acres of orchards wiped out, trees uprooted, debris everywhere. Decades of progress gone in a single instant. But through it all, Buck hadn't lost hope.
USDA relief efforts include providing assistance to affected farmers to coordinate with other federal agencies. Vilsack says the agency has deployed over 160 staff to support FEMA's response to the storm. Cooler conditions prevailed over the Rockies and the Great Basin, making it feel more like fall, while summer heat continued in the Southwest. Meteorologist Jack Van Meter has a look ahead to this week.
Taking a look at our temperatures pretty much for the middle part of the month. We can see that big change is coming. We're actually going to be very above average, especially for the northern plains, for the Dakotas and parts of Montana as well. Really, really warm temperatures, and we can see those warm temperatures really expanding out east, even to the Great Lakes states and parts of the Midwest as well, going all the way down south, pretty much the western part of the country. Again, feeling those very, very warm temperatures. Then on the opposite side, on the eastern part of the country, cooler temperatures. This is pretty indicative of a trough ridge setup, and as we can see, a lot of ridging going to be taking place out west especially. We're going to be seeing high pressure, but with these warmer temperatures, unfortunately, that's also going to mean a lack of precipitation for much of those folks out there in the west. And most of the time, you get 3 or 4 beans in a pod. You're usually happy with that. But take a look at this. That is a 5-bean pod. Delaney Ag Service and Brett in Lamont, Iowa, sharing this with us. Pretty cool to see. And I'll have a little bit more on your forecast in just a second.
2 more human cases of avian flu are now confirmed. The latest cases in dairy workers who had contact with infected cattle in California's Central Valley. That means there have now been 16 cases of the virus in humans this year. It's reported the 2 infected people worked at different dairy farms, and there is no known connection between the 2 cases. Both workers report experiencing mild symptoms, mainly eye redness. The positive cases in humans are a first for California. Others were reported in Colorado, Michigan, Texas, and Missouri. 6 are linked to exposure to infected dairy cows, while 9 are associated with infected poultry. The source of infection for the case in Missouri remains undetermined. Now, the CDC maintains the risk to the general public remains low. An update on a deadly leak of anhydrous ammonia in central Illinois that happened over a year ago. A federal report includes an interview with a 17-year-old Ohio girl who conceded a truck carrying the chemical may have been forced off the road as she passed it in the minivan she was driving. The tanker attempted to give the minivan space to get over, but jackknifed and hit a utility trailer parked by the side of the road. The incident killed 5 people, including 3 people who were near the road when it happened. Now, the National Transportation Safety Board saying it is just providing the facts. It is not making a conclusion of responsibility. And we have an update on a Minnesota dairy farm accused by the state's attorney of wage theft. Attorney General Keith Ellison filing a complaint against Evergreen Acres Dairy back in January, accusing the dairy of at least $3 million in wage theft and also of providing substandard housing to Evergreen employees. The Attorney General's office supplying these pictures of the conditions it claimed some workers were living in at the time. Evergreen Acres agreeing to settle the case brought against it by paying $250,000 in back wages. The defendants deny there was any wrongdoing. In March, the Attorney General's office announced a temporary injunction with the dairy farm agreeing to keep proper records of employee hours, to stop charging rent for substandard housing, and to pay for a housing inspector to document any code violations. Cattle markets marched higher on Friday while grains leaked lower. We'll talk about all of our markets coming up next. And later, these bears are locked in a competition for Overlord of the Outdoors. It's Fat Bear Week, and the judging is underway. Details in the country.
Purchase with a Purpose is brought to you by Frontier Precision Agriculture, who knows farming success demands the best efficiencies and smart decision making. Get your field intelligence at frontierprecision.com/ag. Register now for the Milk Business Conference, December 10th and 11th in Vegas, for a chance to win tickets to the National Finals Rodeo while in town.
After rallying for most of the week, grains pulled back on Thursday and Friday. Could we see prices back in the green this week? Michelle Rook is back with a preview in Markets Now.
Closing lower on Friday, Don Rose is back with analysis. Don, let's talk about some of the pressuring factors for the grain market. You know, has this just been the market taking out weather, premium profit taking? What's pressuring it?
Well, you know, I think the big thing, Michelle, is we've had a pretty big run in the soybeans here in short order since the middle of August. $1.15 in the soybeans, 50 cents in corn roughly. And, you know, some of these things that pushed us to the upside, dry weather in the Black Sea area, dry weather in Brazil. Looks like maybe we're going to have a pattern change in Brazil. So a little bit of a risk off type of trade, and certainly a little bit of a poor technical close on the soybean. So I think just a little bit of respect for the harvesting weekend as much as a little bit of a technical market that's just run a little bit too far, too fast.
Yeah, and that's really true of all the grains. We got up into some pretty good chart resistance. And are the funds done buying, do you think?
Well, you know, I think the funds just want to be with the direction of the market. And I think, you know, probably as simple as in the spring, you know, we put in our highs, and in the fall, we usually put in our lows. And so when we were sitting down at those lower end of the ranges, seasonally, the funds bought back a big percentage of their positions, made some sense, you know, at those lows, and I think just balanced back to the upside. And I think we're trying to decide really what's fair market value, Michelle, in this market with the fundamentals. If Brazil gets a big crop on soybeans, still pretty negative.
Yeah, and speaking of that, as we start a new week, we're going to be watching whether or not those rains confirm in South America. We also have a WASDE coming up, so a lot of factors here to chew through this week.
Yeah, I think the trade is trying to figure out, you know, if we do have a weather pattern change in Brazil, do we have improved weather in the Black Sea area? Those are probably two factors. But then I think the end of the week on Friday, we're going to see, you know, what the yield is on soybeans and corn, and then that probably ends it there. Then we're going to solely focus, I think, on South America weather, their production, because remember, if they get a big crop on target of what the USDA says, 700 million bushels more than this last year on production. So a big number, and that's going to be a big influence in the watch starts.
Thanks so much, Don Rose, U.S. Commodities. We'll have more AgDay coming up. Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rook on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
Taking a look at a precipitation forecast for this next week, as we could see dry conditions, again, primarily for parts of the central and west parts of the country. But we do have a low pressure system, again, that's going to be riding the border of Canada and the U.S., going to be depositing some moisture up there in Wisconsin and also parts of Michigan as well. As I put this in motion, again, the East Coast and especially the Northeast going to be seeing a lot of rainfall, as well as parts of Florida, as there's some tropical moisture that is starting to develop down there in the Gulf of Mexico that's going to be moving on over there. So let's go ahead and time out all these rain chances here so we can see, again, a lot of moisture down there in the Gulf, again, pretty much inundating most of the state of Florida. And as we can see, just lingers pretty much from the beginning of the week all the way to midweek as well. Again, that system up across my shoulder there in the Great Lakes region, really dumping a lot of rain over there as well. And again, the main driver of this is going to be the jet stream. Here's our jet stream picture for tomorrow tomorrow. As we can see, here's that low pressure system, that pretty much that big dip in the jet stream. Again, that's going to be squeezing out just a ton of moisture as it passes through northern parts of Michigan and then into Maine, where it actually will deposit quite a lot of moisture. Out west, though, we have another ridge building, and with this ridge, we're pretty much going to be seeing a very dry middle of the month here in October. So as I play this forward, as we can see, again, that's out of here, and slowly but surely we start to see this high pressure ridge start to build up once again in the middle of the country, and as we can see, quite an expansive ridge at that. So we're going to be seeing very, very warm temperatures, high temperatures actually, that are going to be 5 to 10 to even 15 degrees above average, especially for this time of year. Here's our precipitation outlook. Again, same time period, pretty much in the middle of the month. And as we can see, dry, very, very dry conditions, especially from the south down by Arkansas, going all the way up north towards Indiana. We are just going to be seeing a lack of rainfall. Obviously, a lot of rainfall down there in Florida and especially out west as well, but middle part of the country really going to be lacking in moisture. Redfield, South Dakota, high of 75 degrees, low of 40 degrees. Sunny skies expected. But Venice, Florida, thunderstorms, high of 80 degrees, low of 74 degrees. A little cooler over there. Wichita Falls, Texas, 91 degrees, low of 62 degrees.
Purchase with a Purpose is brought to you by the Mighty Micro from Mosaic Micro Essentials. We put more in so you can get more out. Visit microessentials.com to learn more.
Machinery Pete is always looking for the best deals on those used tractors and combines with all the bells and whistles. Well, this morning, he's talking about some equipment that you just don't see every day.
Well, folks, oftentimes here on Ag Day, I'm talking about late model equipment that just sold for $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. It's important to talk about that stuff, but we ain't going to talk about that today. Instead, let's talk about some interesting items I've run across at auction sold the past couple weeks. Now, let's start off a week ago Saturday on an auction in Middlefield, Ohio, where this 1944 Bell City 24-inch threshing machine sold for $2,000. Now, it had been sitting for 8 years, mostly in a museum, and it needed belts. But this thing, I don't think it's going to be too fussy and throw many computer codes at you. Again, sold for $2,000. Now, if we stay in Ohio, last Wednesday at an auction in Broadview Heights, Ohio, this Ferguson TO30 half-track sold for $1,700. And gosh, I don't see many of those around. $1,700, pretty cool. And if we go back next door into Pennsylvania a week ago Saturday, wow, an amazing International Harvester collector auction. Let's just talk about a few of the items. How about this International 445T baler, completely restored, showroom condition. You know, we often see tractors restored, not often balers. This thing went for $3,500. And how about this, an International number 8 flail chopper, completely restored, went for $3,000. And oh yeah, a couple other items on that auction. How about this 1997 Ford F350, 3,429 original miles, sold for $40,000. And I'll leave you with the highest priced item on that auction a week ago Saturday in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, was this International 1086. Folks, only 735 original hours, went for $42,500, second highest auction price I've ever seen on a 1086.
All right, thanks, Pete. Well, it's not uncommon for all of us to put on a little weight during the winter, and these bears are doing it in style. The kickoff of Fat Bear Week, next.
Machinery Pete on Ag Day is brought to you by Firestone Ag. Firestone Ag now offers Bridgestone tractor tires, the ultimate lineup of tires engineered to deliver enhanced wear life, durability, and ride comfort on the road. To learn more, talk to your local certified Firestone Ag dealer.
It's back for another year. We're talking about Fat Bear Week. For those of you living under a rock, Fat Bear Week is a competition put on by Alaska's Katmai National Park, where the fattest bears face off in head-to-head matchups, and online voters use March Madness-style brackets to whittle them down and eventually crown the chubbiest champ. It's become a bona fide fall tradition and celebrates the majestic animals and their annual pre-hibernation weight gain. But this year, organizers were forced to delay the contest start. That's after 2 of the listed competitors clashed in a tense confrontation in which only one survived. A stark reminder that the laws of nature are always at play in the Alaskan wilderness. Now, despite the drama, brackets are now up and voting is underway. To cast your vote as we move into the semifinals, head over to AgDay's Facebook page and follow the link. All right, that's all the time we have this morning. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in Farm Country.